Firstly, thank you to Joe and Sean, because guys, I did blunder the last episode, I'll be honest. They have been through before, so thank you for coming again, and thank you for availing yourselves to sit down and talk about, Tread Magazine, Tread Femme, and, you guys are the, number one source that I've seen on mountain biking in South Africa. So Joe and Sean from Tread Magazine, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us back.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for the compliment.
Yeah, no, I mean, you are, since I found out about you guys, because obviously I hadn't known about you. I mean, that's how you find out about things. I guess you don't know about it until you, that's how finding out things, how it works. But since finding out about you, I can't see, or don't at least see, someone else being on the forefront the same way you guys are. You guys were established in 2019.
Actually 2009. So this is
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes.
Our 15th year. And yeah, we just try and be as on top of our game in terms of understanding the South African mountain bike market and the trends, the changes, the bikes, the gear, the events, whatever the demands are, and just trying to cover it as best we can from a South African perspective.
Well, I mean, since 2009, you're just looking at mountain bikes, how much they've changed. There's been a massive change in the industry, and for the better in popularity in South Africa, and especially now, with you guys starting Tread Femme. There's a lot of female interest, not enough, but that's, the purpose of it.
It is growing. So, and I'm hoping that every little bit that we do with Tread Femme, whether it's educating or informing or entertaining, that we're making a difference, getting more women on bikes.
Can you pull that just a bit this way? Just because when you look at me, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so obviously the barrier to entry for cycling in general is difficult because it's expensive. But then, with the gender, most boys will get a bicycle. Girls might not get a bicycle when they're young, or at least might not be getting a BMX or a mountain bike, just something maybe to ride in the street. So there is a need to educate and teach and inform ladies on places to ride, how to ride, and I assume that's the main premise around Tread Femme.
100%, yeah, and to break those barriers to entry, to make it less intimidating. We can do everything that the guys can do, pretty much. I mean, even if you watch those crazy chicks that do the monster, what's that event? Monster event, that crazy thing where they do backflips and massive jumps. Girls are doing exactly the same as the guys.
Those Red Bull events and everything.
Red Bull Rampage and Dogfest.
Dogfest, that's it.
Yeah.
The girls are doing exactly the same track. It's not like they can't do it. But it's just, there's a fear factor. And obviously girls are a little bit more cautious than guys, a little bit more measured. So
smarter, actually.
I wasn't going to say that. But yeah, so to break those barriers and to make it accessible in any way we can by sharing all the correct information and making that information readily available, which is a challenge. So,
And actually, it's not that women want to necessarily do all the high-risk mountain bike stuff. They tend to generally ride for different reasons to guys. They're less competitive and more social. And, there's a lot of ways to enjoy mountain biking in South Africa and in the world, but, we try and make women aware of where is a safe place to ride, where is a less intimidating places to ride. And Tread Femme really does focus on making it more, breaking down those barriers and helping women believe that they can ride more and ride more often and ride further and do events. And Joe's been really good with trying to help women get into stage races by introducing them into a short stage race like Bergen Bush 2-day. Which is coming up quite soon, and I think it's her 4th or 5th year where she's got a large group of women that'll be joining her. So, and then they go from there and they move on to other elements of mountain biking if they want to. Otherwise, they just keep enjoying what they're doing.
Yeah, I think, going back to how things have changed it still is, but it largely was just males that were pretty much cycling. I mean, I can imagine in 2009, it was minute as a sport in South Africa.
Yeah, for sure. Most of the events at that time were very, very much endurance focused. There wasn't as much single track riding as there is these days, but it was a lot of long distances. I remember, my first Cape Epic I did in 2005. One of the stages was 148 Ks, mostly on gravel roads, so on a 26-inch wheel bike with triple chainring. So it was a long day, but I think women in general have, more responsibilities within the family environment, and it's harder for them to get that time and to make those commitments for themselves. And it is changing, and it doesn't have to change, but there's certainly a lot more understanding and empathy from men, and it's good. We're seeing the increase in women in the market through our annual survey. It's up to just under 25% now, and it was about 17% 4 or 5 years ago. So gradually growing each year, which is great.
Well, Joe, you obviously being a woman heading up Trade Femme, what was your first introduction into cycling?
Now you're asking me to think back a long time. Probably 33 years ago. Obviously through Sean, because we have been together for that long. In KZN, probably a borrowed mountain bike, and probably through the sugarcane fields in KZN somewhere, and attending it was our first event as such in Sedgefield. It was the Fat Tire Festival in 1992 or 1991.
92, yeah.
92.
Yeah.
Where they had a downhill, an uphill, a foot ups, and a cross-country style race, all on the same bike. Didn't ride it, but I was the soigneur, you call it a soigneur back then, looking after 6 guys. So it was...
But Joe was riding around that time. She just wasn't competing, and there weren't a lot of places to ride in those days. You didn't have, we lived in Durban area, so we used to ride at what is today the Giba Gorge Trail Park, but back then it was just a piece of open land. We used to just go and ride there. So
Umhlanga, which
has changed dramatically.
Just completely built up.
Yeah,
and the sugar fields around Umhlanga Ridge. That's where I first started riding, pretty much.
Yeah, So there's been a huge amount of change, and it's great to see it, and it's great to have lived through it and experienced it. And I guess that gives us a lot of insight into what people are after, what things are likely to stick. I mean, there's certain trends that come and go, and we've seen a lot of those, and we see brands come and go in the industry, and we can see the ones that are likely to remain just from my experience. So it's been an interesting 15 years with trade media.
Well, you mentioned a few things that have changed. Obviously, you mentioned the bicycle, how that has changed, with just the gears, the size of the wheels.
Brakes
have changed, and also places in South Africa. We have a lot more places to be able to go. Even in Johannesburg, which is pretty much maybe the most limited place compared to the other provinces, there's still quite a few places. So, with bicycles maybe being more readily available, there being more bicycle shops, being able to buy online, more places to ride, more platforms like yours to educate people on cycling, I think, we can only see more growth. And I'm sure you guys have obviously witnessed since 2009 the growth.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, I think. Of course, smoothie, so I've got
we'll edit that out.
Like grouchy voice. It's been quite a journey, and the growth is massive. I mean, the curve has been really big. And you were talking about just the parts. The brakes for me is the biggest. I mean, the wheel size, we all adapted, but the brakes, you never knew if you were actually going to stop with those V brakes. Now you know you're going to stop with one finger. You had to grab a fistful of brakes and hope like hell they were going to grip. But so that curve in growth has just been massive.
There's always times, especially now with the way you look at bicycles, obviously let's not bring e-bikes into the equation, but if you look at the advancement of bicycles, it's you look at a bicycle and be like, okay, well, what can be improved on in this other than maybe making components lighter? But, even before, let's say something like a dropper post, you didn't think before dropper post existed. It's not something that you would have thought, okay, well, if we had that, we could improve on that and it'll make cycling a lot easier. So I think there are still things that maybe we haven't even comprehended or thought about that could then be as effective as maybe something like a dropper post, which people even still today, I don't know how, but they're still riding without them.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't think there's that much more that can happen. As you say, possibly lighter and stiffer and stronger. But, essentially, I think suspension is the next area of improvement. And we're seeing it now with with some of the latest products that have come out. The flight attendant from RockShox, basically you set in certain parameters and it electronically senses in conjunction with your power meter on your chainring when it needs to activate the suspension, when it needs to lock it up. It's incredible. I have ridden it, and it's truly remarkable. And I guess that's going to trickle down. I mean, it's only on the really top end bikes at the moment, but it'll eventually trickle down to the more mid range bikes. And we're going to see more sort of intelligent suspension, which is really cool. You don't need it necessarily. Like you don't need electronic shifters for gears, but it is really nice to use and have. So I think we won't see much in the terms of bikes. I think the geometries are pretty much finalized now. You have a more relaxed geometry for a bike made for steeper gradients. And so I think there's been a lot of interesting developments to get to this point, but you don't really get bad bikes anymore. I would say about 10 years ago, we'd get the occasional bike to review, and it was horrible. We lost an advertiser once because we said we don't really want to review this bike because it's not great. They said, well, please still write the review, and we did, and they weren't that comfortable with it. So they came back eventually because they understood that our honesty was important and our credibility. So I think lots of changes, but I think you don't need the latest technology to enjoy mountain biking, and I think if everyone can understand that and believe that, then they'll be in a good space.
Well, Joe, maybe for the ladies, because I think because of all the reasons why it might be more difficult for women to get into cycling, you'd also, if you are going to get into it, you're not going to want to spend all of your hard-earned money on a bike. So what, degree of, like how entry-level to advanced type of bike do you think a woman would maybe need if she's interested in getting into mountain biking?
Yeah, if she's coming in at grassroots level, you really don't need anything too fancy. To me, the key thing is to have a single chainring and disc brakes. Everything else is pretty irrelevant. Doesn't matter what the frame's made of. They don't have to go for carbon. It can just be.
Would you say they would maybe, depends on where they ride, but maybe dual suspension or not even? Not even, because the ladies are still quite intimidated by the rougher terrain. So northern farm type riding, dirt road riding, the uncomplicated riding is the best place for them to start. Let them build their confidence and their passion for cycling in an uncomplicated way. Then later, they'll also realize, and their husbands or their partners or whatever will realize that the sport is making them happy, and then they'll also be happy to put the more money in to upgrade the bikes. And it's a progression. I think you don't need a gel suspension to start at all.
Yeah, I agree with Joe. You don't necessarily need, I would say 29-inch wheels for most people is nice to have because it helps you roll over the smaller bumps quite nicely. But a single chainring simplifies gearing. And disc brakes help you stop better. When you've got stopping confidence, you've got going confidence. You know that you're going to be able to slow down and stop when you want to. So you tend to ride quicker in between. And I think, that level of, that feeling of freedom when you're riding a bicycle with the wind and the sun and the nature around you, it's fantastic. And very few people, I think that's the main thing for beginners is to have that feeling. Everything else comes as they progress, if they wanted to.
We've seen the popularity and growth in gravel riding. Would you in your experience, in both of your experiences, have you seen more women and people in general, maybe first timers going into gravel because it's not as technical and it's kind of a blend between road and mountain biking?
On their mountain bikes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they don't gravitate straight to buying a gravel bike. They'll go and do those events on a mountain bike, I would tell.
Yeah. I mean, the routes aren't that complicated. And I think they're a great introduction to riding bikes. They're actually quite long, some of these gravel races. So it's quite an endurance test. But there are shorter options at most of them. So I think it's a great way to get into it. Gravel bikes themselves they're not that comfortable. They're really efficient if you're a strong condition rider, but they don't have, a couple of the real top end ones have a bit of give, a bit of suspension technology, but not actual suspension. So yeah, I think, you've got to be pretty in good condition to be able to ride a gravel bike fast over a long distance.
Yeah, I think it would make more sense, even if you're wanting to just get into cycling, then just to have a mountain bike, because you can maybe lock out the shocks, go on the road, still go on the gravel, and then obviously still go and do more technical riding.
Yeah, and I think you see that a lot with the Matsamela group. They either buy an entry-level bike, generally first bike is a mountain bike for them, and they start on grass. So you can't really do that on a road bike. But most of their riding's road-based, so it's all about distance, drinking while they're going, hand signals. Like on mountain bikes, you don't really use hand signals, you just shout. It's just a different vibe. But that group is a mountain bike. They're mostly on mountain bikes, but they're more road-focused. And I'm focusing on getting them to come to the mountain bike side.
To the dark side.
For those people that maybe don't know who the Matsamela ladies are, do you want to maybe just explain, the work that they're doing there, and then obviously maybe your experience with riding with them, and obviously also, as you say, trying to get them more into mountain biking as well?
Yeah, so there's a lady, Caroline Matsamela. She started this group in lockdown, a passion project, basically because she also just wanted to keep fit, and she wanted to pass her passion and experience that she'd learned through somebody else onto the ladies. She'd also realized that there was a big gap. There was no woman of color out there riding bikes, never mind mountain bikes. So she started these skills clinics where she teaches them how to ride from absolute scratch. She runs next to them, pushing them with their saddle. She watches them fall. They all obviously check that they're okay, but they all have a good laugh, and then they get back up and they try again. So I think she's in her 3rd or 4th year now, and she's got a massive following, a massive group of ladies. I think she charges about 3,000 Rand for the year, so it isn't for free. The ladies do pay. They've got to commit to doing it. She's got a process where they've got to pass as well. So they start January, and by August, she's got this list that they've got to tick off and pass. As I said, they've got to be able to drink from while they're riding. They've got to be able to do the hand signals. They've got to be able to ride in cleats. What's one of the other things? 60 kilometers. So it's a really, really great program to get women into cycling. Where I'm coming in now is to give them the next step. Obviously, once they've chosen whether they want to do road or mountain bike, for mountain bike, I'm saying, come ride with the Cycle Lab Active Woman or myself or whoever you can find, and just learn the next step in mountain biking and building confidence, because it's very different to what she's doing, teaching them just to ride. So that's basically the Matsamela ladies' skills.
Yeah, I think because of the way this country was obviously previously run, women in general, and then women obviously, and especially of color, it's way more difficult because maybe even, like let's say a white girl might have had her dad who knew cycling, where someone of color, maybe their dad wasn't able to, afford a bicycle. So I think there's a massive need to, educate these people to be able to get on a bike, ride a bicycle, do cleats, because all of these events you're gonna need cleats. If you, like as you say, you have to pass the 60 kilometer mark, which is a good distance. I mean, a lot of people even with experience, maybe can't even do 60. So they are going to be equipped to be able to go out there once they have, the certificates or whatever.
Yeah, no, and it's really brilliant, and it's so heartwarming to see that from a passion project she's grown. I think she's aiming for 100 ladies in this year's Ride Joburg 947 The Road, which is massive. I mean, it's just, it's inspiring.
I think it's incredible because there aren't even some cycling clubs that have that many members.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's been doing great work, and she's a real. I've listened. Well, actually, you and I listened to her talk in that event in the Drakensberg, and she's really disarming in her way. And I mean, she's really, the way she explains things, and she's one of those people that you really, you can't help but like her, and I really love what she does to get more women into mountain biking. It's fantastic.
And the one thing she did say to me was, in their communities, they've never viewed cycling as a sport.
It's a form of transport.
It's a form of transport. Yeah. There's a bike there, it's to commute to the shop or a commute to school. It's never been viewed as a sport like netball or rugby or soccer. So changing that perception is probably the biggest challenge.
Well, I've seen a lot of, because obviously their kit is yellow, a lot of the ladies in the cradle.
Yes.
And it's always nice to see. And I haven't been in cycling long. I've been maybe cycling properly for the last 3-4 years. And just seeing more people of color in general out in the cradle is always nice to see. It's always nice to see it's not just your stereotypical white men, with their shaved legs, the typical four-ways cyclist that we know about,
Yeah.
So it's nice to see in South Africa that people from all walks of life.
The landscape is changing.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to see more people enjoying riding bicycles, and I think you don't have to be any specific kind of person. There's a lot of joy in riding a bicycle, and I always say every time I go for a ride, I feel like a teenager. So. If going for a ride on a bike makes you feel like a kid, it can only be a positive thing. And if more and more people are experiencing that and wanting to experience it, it's just good for the growth.
Yeah, I think that is almost like the perfect definition of cycling. It's exercise, obviously, but it's a form of play. You feel like a child. You're getting in the good exercise. You're getting in outdoors. Different form of cardiovascular activity. It's not seriously straining on your joints. You can do it until you're old at age, so there's so many good benefit things about cycling. And I think especially just the escape from society. You can be in your own world when you're on the bike. And I think that's also maybe the difference from mountain biking to road, for me at least. And I'd like to know your guys' views. It's slightly more removed from society.
Yeah, I feel like on a mountain bike, especially if you're riding on a mountain bike trail, your focus is entirely on not crashing, I guess, and staying upright and trying to carve the trail as best you can. Whereas on a road bike, it's a little bit different. Most accidents or crashes on road bikes happen because of other people, whereas on a mountain bike, they usually happen because of your own error. So there's quite a big difference there. And I feel like after a mountain bike ride or during a mountain bike ride, your entire focus is off every single problem in your life and only on your ride. Whereas a road ride, you've got time for your mind to wander and, consider issues that you might be dealing with. And obviously exercise is a great way to process all of these as well. So I'm not against road cycling. I just feel like mountain biking takes more of your attention for the ride.
Fun.
And it is more
really
fun.
It really is
yes.
more fun.
Yeah,
you with berms and little jumps and corners and trees and the wildlife, or
I think it's that form of play. Yeah. You feel it more in the mountains when you're jumping, when you do something technical and you get a little rush of adrenaline.
And you conquer a little challenge, whether it's a little rocky section or a steep up that you've not made before. You don't have that in road cycling.
Yeah, I think that the attraction to road cycling is maybe just getting in like that flow state of, turning the gears and doing the rotations, and maybe the speed and I mean, there is excitement in maybe being in a big bunch and like weaving through and, streamline and all of those kind of things. There's some excitement in road cycling, but I think if you had to ask any cyclist in terms of what's more fun, they'd probably say mountain biking, but even your road cyclist might say, yeah, that's more fun, but I prefer road.
Yeah. There's a lot of, there's a very quick, you settle into a rhythm very quickly on the road. You can ride out of your driveway and get into a rhythm. On a mountain bike, there's no obvious rhythm. You're always fighting to find rhythm. And even if you do find rhythm for a few seconds, it doesn't last. So, it's a constant challenge to try and feel your way through your ride on a mountain bike. Whereas a road ride is a lot more rhythmic and predictable, I guess.
And, now we can move on to the technology in terms of e-bikes because, and we actually discussed it last time, but we must just definitely discuss it again in terms of how e-bikes have allowed people that maybe wouldn't be cycling to now be cycling.
Yeah, E for enable. I think I said it as well previously. It enables you to ride with different people. You ride with wives to ride with their husbands, to ride further, to ride trails they probably would never have experienced. If you're coming back from injury, it's enabling you to get back on your bike. So to me, it's just it's critical that it enables you.
Yeah, e-bikes definitely the fastest growing segment of the South African market and the international market. There's still a bit of...
Is it the fastest growing in South Africa? It interests me because it's more expensive, and I thought maybe because of our markets.
Yeah, so, I mean, it is a bit more expensive, but there are bikes that, you can get a brand new e-bike for 80,000 Rand. It's obviously not the top end, but you can certainly get all the benefits of an e-bike, at that price, which is, if you compare it to a regular bike, it's not too different. Look, it's a lot of money for a lot of people, but I always say if you really want something, you'll find a way to afford it. So,
and as cycling goes, it's not that much.
Yeah.
But also you'll find that the cycling market, the older cycling market, or the original people like ourselves, are in that bracket and getting older and still wanting to ride. So that's why it's growing. So they're graduating to e-bikes,
yes.
As getting older, I suppose.
Yeah, there's the great thing about it is that it allows you to ride longer. Even if you're getting to an age where you may not be able to ride up the same climbs at the same pace with the same people, on an e-bike you can still ride with them, have your social circle unbroken, and enjoy your days. A lot of retired people are riding e-bikes and loving it. They're actually probably fitter than they were before because they're riding more often and longer distances. So yeah, I think e-bikes are fantastic, and most brands have got an e-bike, at least one e-bike in their range, but many have got a range of models at different price points. So yeah, I think it's certainly, as Joanne said, it's certainly enabled a lot more people to get into cycling or mountain biking that would not normally have been there.
I think it's also a misconception in this terms of the difficulty or the ease of it, because there's obviously different modes that you can ride on. So if you don't want to, go on turbo or whatever, you can go on like the lower setting and you can still get a great workout. I mean, my dad tested out. It was a 40K ride on his normal bike without the engine and then without the battery. And then he went and did on the e-bike, and the calories he burnt was maybe like 100 calories less on the e-bike. So unless you're putting it on and getting the most help, it's still an amazing workout. So it's not you're not working. You're not riding a motorbike. I mean, people who ride motorbikes know that those are still tiring.
Yeah.
So it's still difficult, and you're still exercising.
Yeah.
100%.
You may be just able to exercise. I mean, we did a ride out from here to Michalisburg. It was 120 something, and a guy on his e-bike was able to ride with us.
Yes.
His battery lasted the whole way, which was actually, I mean, it's incredible. It was like a 5-6 hour ride for the battery to last that long, and then also to be able to ride with him, who's someone who wouldn't be able to ride with us if he wasn't on an e-bike.
Exactly. Yeah. I think managing your range is a key thing. It's a new skill that you learn on an e-bike. you go through a period of range anxiety, when you're learning your bike, and then you realize, okay, I need to, have less assistance. So obviously they've got different settings, and I always say to people that e-bike doesn't pedal itself, it's still got to be pedaled. It doesn't give you any assistance if you're freewheeling, and it's not got a throttle like a motorbike. So it's definitely exercise. And I recently tested a full e-bike, a large e-bike, on a 50k ride at Northern Farm, and I compared it to a 50k ride I did on a regular bike about 2 weeks before, and I burnt about 100 calories less on the e-bike. I did the same distance in the same time. The e-bike ride was a bit more single track, so more technical, but only about 100 calories difference in a 2.5 hour ride. So still felt it. It wasn't easy.
And then in terms of the difficulty that it might allow you to tackle more because of maybe bigger tires, better geometry, maybe the shocks the travel's better. So I think it also then helps you tackle those, maybe, like a more difficult route at a particular.
And having the power to obviously conquer an obstacle, get over. Power definitely helps.
Yeah, for sure. They do tend to have more suspension and bigger brakes because you do need it on an e-bike, because you do tend to ride bigger slopes.
And it's a heavier bike, so your brakes do need to be a bit better.
Yeah. And the tires are a bit more chunky. So e-bike tires wear a bit quicker, and the drivetrain also wears a bit quicker because of, the different dynamics to a regular bike. Yeah, also your skills have to be adapted slightly. You can actually go uphill quite fast. So what would not normally be a tricky corner on a normal bike becomes a tricky corner on an e-bike. So you have to actually judge your speed and how you go through these corners. So there's definitely a slightly different level of skill if you're a trail rider. I think if you ride on gravel roads and Jeep track, maybe not so much.
You mentioned Northern Farm, and that's one of the places obviously in Joburg we have to ride, and maybe in Gauteng there's several, but where for you guys is your favorite places to ride in South Africa? Maybe starting with Joe. Obviously, let's say your favorite place in terms of in totality. So the scenery, the type of riding, the area, the safety.
I really do like Henops. It's my favorite trail at the moment. I'm coming back from injury. I'm about 2 months riding properly again. And I can still manage a loop at Henops. It's about 40 Ks. We see game. It's mostly single track. It's just flowy. The guys that have built those trails, I don't know, they need proper props. Thumbs up to them. It's just my favorite trail.
Yeah, I would say, I would separate it into sort of wilderness trails and more country trails being close to the city and wilderness trails being further out. So, places like the Drakensberg or some of the places in the Western Cape like Jonkershoek, even though it's close to Stellenbosch, you're actually in a proper mountain environment there. You could have a problem and someone might not see you for a long time, So I think the danger level is higher in a wilderness trail. So you got to be more smart and self-sufficient. But so I would say, Mpumalanga's got great trails around Nelspruit, White River. Stellenbosch has got great trails. Banhoek just on the other side. Gauteng's got great trails. We've got, I don't know, probably about 10 trails within about an hour's drive from Johannesburg. So we're really quite lucky. Look, there's a lot of corners because they have to make a lot of use of the pieces of land, and it needs to be within a safe environment. So it's hard to choose a trail that's the favorite, but we do actually have a website called Top MTB Trails where we've kind of ranked trails over the years. So we've got, we try and rank them every few years so that, there's an update at least. But yeah, if you go on there, you're guaranteed to find some really good trails. topmtbtrails.co.za.
Okay, and you mentioned the animal aspect as well. I think as South Africans, it's special to be able to, and not many places in the world, or especially anywhere really in the world other than maybe in Africa, can ride and see zebras and see rhino and see all these animals. I think it was this weekend, you were riding a Cradle Moon, and I saw in your story, it was like 6 zebra. It was like a wildebeest or something. So to be able to, 20 minutes from home, to be able to go ride and potentially see a few rhino is incredible.
Yeah, look, I mean, I didn't see any rhino on that ride, but I know there are rhino in that area. I saw hippo, I saw giraffe, Joe saw roan, antelope,
sable.
So she's actually, there's a lot of animals close to Joburg, but a place like Summer Place Game Reserve, which is probably about a 3-hour drive from Joburg in Limpopo, they've got quite a lot of game, actually a large variety of game, and you pretty much guaranteed a wildlife encounter on every single ride you do there.
And awesome trails.
I've got someone that really loves it, and he's more enduro focused. So is there a lot of enduro type of riding there as well?
Yes, definitely. There's actually a national enduro cup event there in about 2 weeks' time. So most of the top riders in the country that do enduro racing will be there. So they've got great variety of trails. It's it's not only for enduro riders. There's also some nice routes that most riders can do there, and there's also gravel roads and jeep track. If you just want to ride and enjoy looking for animals, you can do that as well. So there's not a lot of places like that in South Africa.
Especially with accommodation, everything, to be able to go straight from your accommodation to the trails.
Yeah,
straight out the door onto the trails. It really is a super special place.
It is. And some places have got, you can go there, but they might have lion or elephant or rhino, and those are obviously big five. They're quite dangerous, a bit unpredictable. Even buffalo actually can be quite dangerous. So look, there are leopard pretty much everywhere, but you don't see them that often. So to go and ride on really good trails at a game reserve and have so many wildlife encounters is awesome. So highly recommend it if you have.
You mentioned 3 hours from Joburg, but past Pretoria, or which direction are we?
Yeah, past Pretoria on the N1 North, and you pretty much drive for 2 hours on the freeway and then turn off 1 hour into the Waterberg, so Limpopo.
You go through Modimolle.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's in the Limpopo province in the Waterberg region.
Nice.
Beautiful.
So, Joe, your favorite type of riding, would that be, your single track, your slight bit of technicality, some jeep track mixed in between? Is it just gravel? Like, what for you?
Yeah, no, I don't like gravel or tar. I think I'm allergic to tar. So single track, but not too complicated. I do like a little bit of rocky, love berms, love the downhills, don't like the uphills. That's why I think Henop suits my style of riding, because the climbs are manageable. The flow is awesome. There's a little bit of rocks. I don't like gravel. I don't know if I'll ever take to gravel riding. So mostly single track, and probably if I can get a good three-hour ride in with mostly single track, up or down, preferably down. But yeah, that's nice. I don't like the uphills at all.
And women in general, with Tread Femme and maybe people sending you messages, that kind of stuff, and just experience, what in general for women do they like? What type of riding, if you had to kind of group it together?
Social, fun. You can have a good coffee afterwards. Someone can wash your bike. Doesn't really matter about the trails, because we'll stop. The ladies are not too shy to stop and walk something if it's too intimidating, especially if it's ladies riding with ladies. There's no judgment. So I think that's critical. And there's no general. There's such a variety of women out there riding all sorts of trails. The downhill scene is growing in South Africa as well. And I would never ride a downhill. I don't even know if I'd tackle an enduro. Maybe on a bigger travel bike, I might do an enduro light, but because I'm used to following his wheel down stuff, I'm not too intimidated. I like my wheels on the ground. So whatever trails it is, as long as my wheels are on the ground, I'm happy.
And for you, Sean?
I've started to get quite fit again lately for longer distances, which used to be kind of my default status as a mountain biker. And I enjoy the feeling of being fit and being able to ride for a good few hours at a reasonable pace and do stage races if I feel I want to. But I think I get my biggest kicks from enduro type riding, which isn't necessarily the racing. It's just more technical trails down and up. I do enjoy technical climbs, which requires a fair amount of, I suppose, just being able to choose a line, get your body position right, get the gearing right, and know when to pedal, when to ratchet. So yeah, I like technical riding, but I'm not. There's not a lot of it around Joburg, so I just kind of find a good balance and enjoy what I can. So currently enjoying getting fitter and riding for longer.
In South Africa, because I don't know, I would probably assume just because it's easier, is still road cycling largely more popular than mountain biking or not?
No, I would say mountain biking probably 9-1 in terms of popularity on road cycling, maybe more.
Okay.
But certainly no, road cycling, unfortunately, it's got a few big events, annual events, which are great because they have a full road closure, but it's really dangerous, generally. It hasn't got any less dangerous over there. It's actually got more dangerous. There's just more reckless, drunk, unlicensed drivers around. And unfortunately, as I said earlier, any time you have an accident on a road bike, it's generally someone else's fault, not yours. So, you're kind of putting your life in someone else's hands. And so, yeah, I think a lot of those people are starting to do gravel racing, which is good for gravel. But yeah, it's, I would say 20 years ago, road cycling was more popular than mountain biking, but it's changed since then.
Yeah, I guess I'm basing that on, let's say, going out to the cradle, you see road cyclists, whereas with mountain biking, there's 10 different locations someone could be riding, so you don't see that it's a ton of people are mountain biking, but they could be. They're just not in one place.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. You see the road cyclists because you drive on the roads, and mountain bikes don't need roads, so you can go in so many different places to ride a mountain bike, and so we're spread all over on any given Saturday or Sunday morning. We don't really have to specifically ride a certain route like the road cyclists do.
And I think they do congregate in the cradle because it's the safest place. So you'll find a lot of road cyclists, especially on the weekends there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's great to see, there's clubs that go ride there, there's follow vehicles. It can actually get a bit chaotic at times, and but I'd rather have that than people shying away from riding bikes. I'd rather have the occasional issue where there's a bit of aggression or, a little bit of an argument. But yeah, generally I think it's good for more and more people to be riding. Doesn't really matter what bike.
And because the cradle for road cycling, at least in this, Joburg area, is the best and the safest. My dad was recently just in Slovenia, and there's every single road has a cycling track, a walking path. Do you think in South Africa would ever get to, probably not, would ever get to a point where there's like, I remember in Durban at one point there was like a cycling, but it was more like a transport to work if you're on a bicycle. Do you ever think we could get to a point where, road cycling, it's safe enough and there's allocated, demarked areas to be able to,
not in South Africa.
No, they're building that road in Pretoria. Aren't they building that cycle lane?
Yeah, there's been attempts to build cycle lanes. I mean, I rode one in Sandton 2 weeks ago that's specifically been built for riding bicycles on, and it was built a few years ago, I think, with good intentions, but I just don't think that there's enough momentum or there's just a general lack of respect for the rules of the road, so it's...
Delivery bikes use that.
Yeah, so...
More than cyclists.
Yeah, I think it was built before COVID, and obviously COVID changed a lot of things, and... there's a lot of delivery bikes out these days, and convenience is a big thing for people. And as I say, unfortunately, the respect for road rules is, I don't know what happened to it, but it's very frustrating being just driving on the roads, never mind cycling on them. So I would love for that to be the case one day, but I don't see it happening in South Africa ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think every person you tell that you're a cyclist that doesn't know cycling, they're like, is it safe to do that in South Africa? So everyone knows that it's not ideal for anyone to be cycling where there's cars and on our roads.
No, but there's a lot of aggression from non-cyclist motorists. I'm not going to name any names.
How do we?
People know who they are.
How do we combat that? Because you see those cars that obviously they are cyclists, and they say, and they have like that sticker where it's like, cyclists, or maybe it's people that don't like cyclists that say like, cycle right 2 meters from my car, or whatever it is. It's like a yellow sticker. And you do see that. I mean, even in the cradle, sometimes I'll be riding and I'll see this person riding so close to these cyclists, overtaking. I'm just like, I know for a fact you're not a cyclist, just the way how close you go into this bunch.
Yeah, it's sad. And I just think I don't know how you educate those people to understand that, maybe we're a bit of an irritation. We might slow you down on your drive to work or your drive to lunch by half a minute, but just have some tolerance. It's somebody's mother, father, brother, sister, daughter, it's a human life.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just a general lack of respect for other road users, and it obviously affects cyclists as well,
Yeah, I think it's kind of, I'm in a car, I take preference over anyone else. So, like maybe they'll slow down for a pedestrian because they can maybe see that guy's walking to work. But if they see this wealthy person on a bicycle with this nice kit that gets in their way while they're in a rush to work, like it just frustrates them more, and then they get a bit more angry. And then you get the bad apples that are...
To be fair,
it works both ways.
To be fair, you do get some of those cyclists that are idiots too, that also show no respect or no mutual respect for other road users. So it's unfortunately a place where we are at the moment. I don't see it changing, not in my lifetime, fortunately. But certainly in highly developed first world countries, there's a lot of good being done with cycle mobility and transportation and commuting. The Netherlands is obviously the best country in the world for that, and hopefully more of that can happen. But unfortunately, we've got other good things to be excited about in South Africa.
The zebras and the giraffe.
We'll just have to stick to the mountain bike.
There we go. Sorted.
I mean, I choose not to ride on the roads. Occasionally I have to ride a little bit on a road, and I'm always so cautious of it. And but generally, I try and generally drive to a trail, ride the trail, drive home, just so that I can actually stay alive, which is a bit frustrating or crazy, but that's how it is.
Yeah. So where are you guys riding this weekend? Is there a specific place that you know yet?
I don't know.
I haven't really thought about it. So
just had a big weekend.
Yeah, riding. We just did have a big weekend.
What was the weekend?
I had a 60k off-road, so I went to Henops, did 1.5 laps, and then a 3-hour, which I did at Cradle Moon.
Nice.
Both had lots of game, and I did a bit of the Cradle Loop, which sadly has not been maintained.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if you've ridden the Cradle Loop on the mountain bike.
Not in like the last 2 months.
Yeah. Not quite sure what's going on there, but it's...
Who maintains that?
It comes under the roads department. It's Gauteng provincial land. So, in the past, they've actually been pretty good with it, because the guy that managed to get the trail built was a mountain biker. So I don't know if he's still involved, but it goes through stages, and I think the businesses that are located in the cradle, they have occasional meetings. So I think once in a while it'll come up and people say, look, we rode the trail and it wasn't great. So then it'll come up and something will be done. So it's not somebody's full-time job, which is the case if you go to a normal trail park. So, but the cool thing is we've got choices. So nice to go and support different trails. We want to try and ride a new trail in Pretoria area called Die Bosveld. And then also there's some new trails. I think it's either new trails or new trailhead near Avianto called Syringa Trail Park or something.
Yeah.
Like that,
so I did this go-karting there. I did the go-kart. That was very cool.
I saw that.
Very nice go-karting. And what we also did was when we do some of we'll go out from Hanidrisha and we'll go through Ramsig and go to the Cradle and all of that. And then we'll go through the Syringa Park there. So I don't know if they've joined trails with Avianto or what they've done.
Yeah, we'll try to find out. We need to update our, these parks on our website. So we try and ride all the new ones, and as regularly as we can, and just keep people up to date.
Awesome. So Trade Magazine, obviously it's all, virtual now.
Yeah, digital.
Sorry, yeah. So where do people, what's the subscription process? Can they just go to the website, read some articles?
Yeah, so our content's all free. You just go into our website, which is tredmtb.co.za, and you can subscribe to our mailer. We send a mailer out almost weekly. It's probably on average three times a month. And that's got a lot of content that takes you back to our website. Keeps you informed as to what's happening in the market.
But even Instagram, you might have some, pictures about articles and stuff, and then people can read further.
Yeah. So we have some social media accounts which people can find on Instagram.
I'll put all those links in the description.
Oh, that'll be great. Yeah. So we also have a Shred Instagram account, which is aimed at more of the younger market. It's more gravity focused, or the youth, cross country riding. So we kind of sort of got some separations in our market, and we created different Instagram accounts to appeal to those. So we've got the Trade Femme, the Shred, and the Trade Media. And then we've obviously got our Top MTB Trails, which is a separate Instagram account too, and a website.
Would you say the most popular discipline within cycling is now going more towards the gravity and the downhill and all of that, or is it gravel?
No, if you look at our survey that we do every year, the majority of the people that take our survey, or that are the mountain bikers in South Africa, are between the ages of 30 and 55. So that market is definitely not into high-risk riding, which is the more gravity side. So the younger generation is more that gravity market. I wouldn't say it's way smaller than endurance racing. So marathons, stage races, and the ultra endurance sort of races, as well as the gravel races, are definitely the biggest. And probably will be for ages.
Yeah. I think just because of the price of bikes, and the people that do the downhill or be willing to do the downhill will be the younger people with the belief that they can't get hurt, but they might not be able to afford the bicycles.
But they still bounce.
Yeah.
So the younger people, generally they'll buy a second-hand gravity bike to start with, and they will, if they look like they're really good at it and they love it, they'll probably stay in there. But generally, there's not a lot of older people doing gravity type racing, so it's definitely a younger person's segment, and it's still high risk, So most people are risk averse, so they'll avoid doing something that could hurt them, unless they're really confident on their skills. So I think it's always going to be the longer distances that are going to dominate.
Yeah. Anything in closing you guys would like to add? Maybe inform anything?
I guess, I'd like people to consider two things. One is don't underestimate the value of improving your skills on a mountain bike. It can be a huge boost for your confidence, and you can actually really ride more trails. Trails that you maybe found intimidating previously can make a big difference. And also appreciate the trail parks, and support them, because a huge amount of effort goes in there, and often it's by people that are not on social media or have got no profile at all, but they actually put in a lot of hard work to get these trails in great conditions. So that's what I would advise. Just appreciate them and support them by riding there.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, because you paying maybe 250 Rand to go ride, it's nothing. But they need to pay salaries. They need to get people to cut the grass. They need people to, compact the soil. So there's lots that go into it. And some people might just be like, nah, I don't want to go ride there. And, there's so much effort that actually goes into, that's why the thing like the route in the cradle gets mismanaged, because it is actually difficult and time consuming and expensive. And
that one's free, kind of free. It's taxpayer funded, but there's no direct source of income there. So, it's a tricky one. Whereas at a normal trail park, the funding that comes in from the riders goes directly into the trails.
I don't really have anything. Not that I can think of.
Maybe something for women that are maybe apprehensive to get into riding?
I think...
If you had to speak to yourself,
if I just
motivate yourself to get into cycling.
I don't know, put on your big girl panties. Believe in yourself. I think that's the biggest thing. I'm on a journey at the moment, a personal journey, where for the last 5 years, I've been helping women get into the sport. I've sacrificed a lot of my own rides to encourage others. And for the last few months, since I've come back from my injury, I've been focusing on my own fitness, and I've been following a program with a trainer. First time I've ever done that. And to believe in yourself, you can do it. I think that's the biggest thing I'm taking out of this so far is, and not give up. Don't give up. You fall off lots. Don't give up. Pat yourself up. Get back on your bike. You got it.
I think it's been great to watch Jo on this journey with a coach and monitoring her power and her progress and her recovery and her fatigue. Seeing all these graphs, which she's never really had that before. It's quite motivating, especially for someone like Jo, who's quite a program and performance driven. She used to be a top swimmer when she was young, and race really well, and you never lose that competitiveness. So not that she's competing against anyone, but she's competing against
herself,
who she was yesterday. So that graph, the steepness of the curve motivates her, and I think that's fantastic. And if more women can just commit and enjoy, and as Jo says, don't stop. Even if you have a little fall and you hurt yourself, it doesn't mean that cycling or mountain biking is not for you. It's just a bad day, not a bad life.
Well, I often get asked, what do I prefer, running or cycling? And sometimes I would maybe, just because of simplicity, sometimes choose running. But after riding, some of the beautiful trails that we have in this country, there's no question about it. Mountain biking, even cycling in general, just is for me so much. Well, I don't want to say better, but it's better in a different way than, running. Cycling is incredible. And I think everybody, what kid doesn't want a bicycle growing up? And as an adult, if you can get into something as cool and special as cycling, I think you need to grab it by the horns, because of, it takes you back to being a kid. It takes you back to how you felt when you were boarding ramps with your friends, in the neighborhood. So I think cycling definitely has a special place in my heart, maybe because of, growing up with it. But, as an adult, all my adult friends that maybe aren't into cycling yet, all of them be like, yo, I want to come ride with you. None of them say, I want to come run with you.
Yeah.
So I only run if I'm being chased.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely think, there's great potential in our country because of, the amazing places we can go for it to just continue to grow.
Yeah, and there's more and more trail parks that are available now to ride, and you can pretty much ride a mountain bike trail in every province in this country. Now, even the Northern Cape has got a few. And not many, but it's a big province, and but there's a lot of great gravel roads there, and it offers different things. It's not necessarily purely mountain biking terrain. So, but you can ride a bicycle pretty much anywhere in this country, and that's really cool, and almost all year round, because the weather's pretty mild if you compare it to many other years.
Yeah, our winter is not European winter, so we can cycle in winter.
No, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
No
So,
excuse.
you might just have to ride at a slightly later time in the day, but it's still great to be able to ride all year round.
Guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming back for the second time.
Thanks
Thanks for having us again.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.